and welcome to the first episode of Adam Coumas Runs for Office. This is a podcast where you'll hear me, Adam Coumas, a comedian, talk about what's going on in the news, what's going on in the world, what's going on in politics, and trying to make sense of what's going on. If a little bit about me, if you've never met me before, I'm a comedian, I'm 33 years old, and I am based in London, South London to be specific. I come from a little proud town, a posh part of Surrey, called Croydon. If you are listening to this from overseas, Croydon is one of the better areas in London. It's quite affable. It's quite a upmarket. A lot of gentrification going on in Croydon specifically. We're always in the news. House prices are great, and if you haven't been to Croydon, do check it out. If you are from overseas, come visit Croydon. We do have an IKEA, so very important. Right, without further ado, let's get into it. Right, so as I said, this week we've got a couple of stories coming up. We've got Trump visiting the UK. I like this every time Trump visits the UK. There's always some sort of story about it, like, oh my god, there's going to be protests. It's going to be riddled with errors. It's going to rile people up. I mean, it's Trump, isn't it? Whether you love him or hate him, he's going to make the news, and he's always going to rub up some people the wrong way. Unfortunately, that does include some of our politicians, and I think when you are the little brother of the US, I think it's best to do more ass kissing rather than telling him to go shove it. Anyway, but yeah, I think this is going to be interesting. I personally, my whole take on Trump visiting and people sort of like maybe trying to protest and stuff, just be on his good side until we get the preferable tariffs and we basically get favourable relations with the UK, with the USA. At the end of the day, it's better to have good, strong economic links, and whether you like the guy, if you don't like him, he's not going to be there in 4 years. He's going to be literally out of office. So just try and keep your personal sort of opinions private. That would be my suggestion. If you are in government, if you are outside of government, feel free to chat shit as much as you like. Right, so one of the other stories we've seen is Peter Mandelson has been sacked by Keir Starmer. His official title, isn't it, is Lord Mandelson. Shall we call him Lord Mandelson? Let's just call him Peter. Let's call him Peter. I like this. And by the way, I will say, I will just preface this, anything I'm going to say now, I will just say allegedly on top of this, because I don't want to get anything wrong. But I like Keir Starmer's, basically, if you don't know the story, Peter Mandelson has been sacked. He's been sacked because of his close ties to Jeffrey Epstein, the late paedophile. I think I can say he's a paedophile, allegedly, but I think everyone thinks he is. So he was essentially pen pals, and they were sending letters after Jeffrey Epstein had been convicted. And what I like about this is Keir Starmer has come out and said after the sacking, and this is on the BBC, he's just said, "I would never have appointed Mandelson had I known full Epstein links." So he's like, look, I didn't know the full extent to it. So what I love about that is the fact that, a certain amount of links is okay. Like a certain amount, if you're linked to a paedophile, a late paedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, like a certain amount of connection is okay. Okay, but like if you're sending him letters and your pen pals, that's not all right. So I like Keir Starmer here. He's been very reasonable. And he's not taking a rash approach. He goes, look, you can have some connections with late paedophiles, but he doesn't want to know the full extent. Good on you, Keir. What else have we got going on? It's officially, unfortunately, been a week since the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk. He was, depending on which side of the political aisle you sit on, he was either a right-wing hate speech mongerer or a freedom of speech teller if you're on the right as well. So I'm not going to go into this too much because it is quite sad, and a lot of people have said things already that I don't want to go over and recover. But I think what's interesting is we have seen some extreme responses from people, particularly people who are a bit more anti Charlie or anti the right. They've been celebrating his passing away. I find that a little bit distasteful. And again, I wasn't the biggest fan of the guy. I agreed with some of the things he said, and then there was like a lot of stuff that I really didn't agree with, and I thought it was very distasteful. But yeah, some of the celebrations that have been going on have been disheartening, to say the least, especially since the unfortunate and graphic way he did die, and it was in front of so many people. And look, I'll preface this by saying I'm no fucking angel. I'm not a saint. I'm the first person to say the stupid things and everything else. I do enjoy dark humor, and there's been some good jokes about it. Like I think that's fine. You know, gum control comes to mind. That was quite funny. That was a friend of mine, Rob Moriarty, said that joke. I mean, again, not in good taste, but that's fine. But what I don't agree with is the celebration of someone who essentially was trying to talk to people. But then I guess you could always argue that he was peddling and this. But at the end of the day, like he wasn't physically harming people. And I just think this doesn't look good for anyone. And I think the only person I think who had a reasoned response, who was maybe on the left, was Bernie Sanders. He was very good, actually. Good on Bernie Sanders. He came out and he sort of posted a video on his YouTube, and he was like saying, look, he disagreed with basically everything Charlie said, but we shouldn't, like the whole point of the West, or the Western values, is we allow people we disagree with to speak and have their piece, say their piece. And violence should never be the answer. So that is just something that I think should be echoed throughout people on the right and on the left. And it should be a wake-up call, you know, for people. And I'm not saying the left are the always ones who are in the wrong. The right are at it as well. I've got a lot of people who are politically right-wing leaning, and if I got paid a penny for every time somebody had said, you know, the left are evil, they're evil, you know, I'd understand. But like, it shouldn't be. This shouldn't be what we're doing. We shouldn't be demonizing the others. Like, and I get it. You know, I know people on the left, they probably feel like they're being targeted, and the right wants them gone. But unfortunately, the right feels the same way about the left. And in this instance, a guy who was politically right-leaning has been assassinated, and it's just not a good look if you've got people on the left sort of laughing and celebrating it. I just think that doesn't bode well for unity. So yeah, nothing really funny about that. Just a little bit sad. And we are fresh off about a day or two from the Tommy Robinson march that happened over the weekend. So this was described in a few different ways. It was described as a right-wing rally. It was also described as a hate march or a unity festival. So what's interesting about this is that we've got different statistics. We had I think the BBC saying it was like maybe 100,000 or so people turning up to the march, and then you had the Met Office. Not the Met Office, the Met, the police, they were saying close to 3 million people who turned up for the event. So different numbers. I think The Guardian, and look, to be fair to The Guardian, they actually posted some drone footage of the extent of the march, of the festival, however you want to interpret it, over the weekend. And it looked like more than hundreds of thousands. It looked like a hell of a lot. Again, this has been very divisive in the UK. We've got people saying that it's worrying. They're saying it's right wing, and then you've got people on the right saying, "Look, it's just us wanting to be unified." I think it's with everything. There's probably a bit of both in there, isn't there? Like, I think you'd be hard pressed to admit. You'd say, "Look, there's probably some people in this protest that are right wing and are hateful." But I guess you could say that about any protest. You know, if you were going to the Palestinian marches, you probably could say, oh, there are definitely some people who are anti-Jewish, right? You don't want to tar all of them, but there are going to be these sentiments. But you can't, I would be advised to say you probably shouldn't tar all of them with the same brush, you know? And I think, like, describing everyone at that festival or march over the weekend as right-wing and racist probably doesn't go very far in furthering and developing the conversation, you know? And again, a lot of people, I don't know if they could all be racist. I don't know if they could. I mean, maybe they could. Maybe we're quite strong in that sense. Maybe we could do that. But something tells me that they're probably not all racist. And I think probably, you know, a lot of them probably just misunderstood and feel unheard. But then again, maybe that's not funny. Maybe we should just all call them racist scum, which I wouldn't do but it's fun to do, isn't it? Just like we can just call the Palestinian lot or anti-Semitic scum or whatever. But it's why have nuance? What's the point of nuance? Fresh off the press today, we've also, the government is now looking at introducing, now Google this, look this up, it's quite interesting. There is going to be a public office accountability bill. Now, when I heard this, I was like, okay, so this sounds very interesting. What does that mean? Essentially, this is a new bill that is being proposed, and it's actually being colloquially referred to as the Hillsborough Law. So if you know the tragic incident that happened in Hillsborough many, many years ago, this bill is now being passed to ensure that the government and people in office, to ensure that the truth can never be concealed by the state. So that's the idea. Basically, the bill is supposed to say that anyone in Parliament who's representing their constituents or have new information, they should act truthfully within Parliament. Now, I was taken back by this. I didn't realise that we hadn't already had that in place. I think, British Parliament, it was founded in 1707, and it's taken till 2025 for them to be like, look, we actually need a bill though to like actually make it official. To me, that's just crazy. Why wasn't that the default? Well, look, they're putting that through, and let's hope something comes out of it. I'd be very interested to see where we come from that, because as we all know, politicians are not to be trusted unless we love them, of course, and then we can just say they do no wrong. There's certain politicians out in the world that can do no wrong, seemingly. And in other news, we've also got Owen Cooper, the star of Adolescence. He won an Emmy. He won an Emmy for his performance. I watched Adolescence. I thought it was very good, very hard hitting. I know there was some controversy around it because he was a white kid, blah, blah, blah. But I thought, nonetheless, it was a very good performance. I'm a little bit concerned that he did win the award, considering, wasn't it a documentary? Joking. Keir Starmer mistakenly calling the show a documentary would then mean they've awarded an Emmy to a killer. But obviously he's not a killer. He's just a very talented actor. Good for him. I'm very happy that his career is going well. And hopefully we'll see him in many other future performances where he's also stabbing young teenage girls. Okay. Right, and we have gossip news. We've got a last little bit of gossip news. Look, we're a little bit late to the Taylor Swift engagement. We know she's been engaged, and that's great. I'm not the biggest Taylor Swift fan, mainly because I had an ex many years ago who was obsessed with Taylor Swift, and it just ruined look, I'm a bloke as well, I'm a straight guy, right? So I'm not going to be the biggest fan of Taylor Swift anyway, but just the level of obsession. When you see someone who's so into something and it makes you feel physically sick, you're like, how can you love or how can you like this so much? My ex, bless her, she was really, really into Taylor Swift, and it just like she loved Taylor Swift enough for the both of us. I felt like, right, you love her so much. It actually, in order for this relationship to work, I'm gonna have to hate her a little bit. I can't like her at all because you love her too much. The things you and from what I understand, and I mean that was many years ago. We're talking like 2008, 2009, 2010. From my understand, this is just every Taylor Swift fan. This is every Swiftie, and good for you, Taylor Swift. I mean, look. It's the things dreams are made of. Like everybody wants a death cult, yours just happened to be made from white women, which is good. What else we got in the gossip section today? We've got Margot Robbie. We'll put a picture up. Margot Robbie steps out in a tight black. This is from the Daily Mail. This is classified as news. Margot Robbie steps out in a tight black and white mini dress, not a dress, a mini dress, as she embraces her sexy sense of style a year after welcoming first child. Well, that's good. I'm glad we're still judging women on how sexy they can be after childbirth. That's fantastic. Good work, Daily Mail. Slow news day, I think. Okay. Right. Well, look, this is it. This is the first episode of the podcast. Adam Coumas runs for office. Like I said, we'll be doing this weekly. We'll see where it goes. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.